Risk and Assurance Committee meeting for March. We have got one apology from Councillor Barker. Are there any late items, Kyle?
No.
No? Does anyone have any conflicts of interest they want to declare in respect of this particular meeting? Great. Okay, so let's move now to the first item, which is the annual report audit engagement. So this is for the 2025-2026 year. We've got a paper from Brendan. Good morning, Brendan. Thanks for the paper. And we've got a recommendation on page 6 of the papers that we receive the engagement letter for both the council and trustee reporting purposes, and recommend that His Worship sign the letters on behalf of ODC. So, Brendan, is there anything in particular that you wanted to draw to our attention that isn't in your paper?
No, not really. So as I pointed out in the paper, the fees have already been set and adopted by council. The previous council signed the letter with the proposal for the proposed fees for the next, 4 years at that point, which included last year. So this letter is just the one that basically tells them, look, you go ahead and do the actual audit. I did point out, and I'll mention it as well for those that read the report, that this is an interesting engagement letter for the actual annual report audit, and that it's a 3-year letter, because normally historically we've done annual letters. So this will mean that basically for the next 3 years we won't have another letter to bring back to the committee to get signed, except for the trustee reporting. And given the relatively small nature of that, I probably wouldn't bother bringing a report to council or to the committee about the trustee reporting letter. I'd probably just get that done.
And the trustee reporting letter is in respect of this council's ownership of shares in LGFA.
It's more to do with our borrowings from LGFA, not so much our ownership. So it's the fact that we have a trust deed that we use, which is what allows us to borrow money through the LGFA, and so we have to report on that each year. And so this is just it's a separate assurance that basically says our annual report's all good, and the amount that we claim, that we're saying in our certificates, we say we borrowed, we owe, and all that is all exactly correct.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions in relation to the audit engagement? Your worship.
I do. Brendan, help me. Page 35, it's talking about how many hours, and it's like 900 hours to do the audit. That's bloody near 20 hours a week. Like, do they sit in here and do it all?
No. So it's usually there's 4, maybe 5, depending on how much is going on, for a good 2 weeks solid. So that's 40 hours a week times 4 people is 160, say 200. So it's 400 just in that. Then you do have they break it down into the other. They also have staff back in the office that might be doing some stuff for them, specialised staff around revaluations, stuff like that. There's obviously, that's just the final interim visit. There's also the interim visit, which is another week, which is another 200 hours. So you
sounds like ludicrous to me. Like
there is a lot of work involved. Yeah.
I mean, are our systems that poor that they can't just,
No, it's not a system issue. That's what it takes, regardless of the council.
Yeah.
And
it just seems like,
I mean, other government departments take even longer, having been on the other side and knowing how long it takes to actually do. There's a lot of different elements to audit, and there's a lot of time involved getting it all done. Documentation, it's checking the stuff, it's writing it all up, and then getting reviews. The managers will then review what the work you've done, and they may come back with further questions, and then it goes to the partner, and they may come back with further questions. There's a lot of follow-up at the end as well. And then obviously there's a review partner as well, so they get another partner to check it over to make sure that the partner, because for independence reasons, as partners work on the job for up to 6 years, so the review partner's kind of a double check to make sure that there's no familiarity coming through. I guess
it just seems an absurd amount of money to.
It is
on a $16 million rate collection. And the other thing is I'm not sure. To me, it looks like it's more a financial audit.
Yeah,
but they seem to be gone outside their wheelhouse. Like, for instance, the last audit we failed, well, one of the things they brought up was someone stayed in Two Flasher Hotel in Queenstown. Well, to me, that's nothing to do with that. The financial side of that should be if someone was charging $1,000 for a $500 room, not how flash a room we stay in. So I think they're kind of getting outside their wheelhouse, so to speak. So I'm not sure what control is over that.
Probity insurance
Yeah.
too. It's an assurance that council are following their policies that they've put in place. So if we've set a limit of $300 a night for a hotel and someone spends $800 a night, if auditors happen to review that, they will ask a question or put it in a note in our audit management report. So I guess the part of it is reassuring the public that we are looking after their money. Is a big part of that audit.
Yeah, I understand all that. I just think, are the public happy that we're spending, nearly $250,000 of their money every year to get this done? As a ratepayer, I'm not happy about it, but anyway, I guess it is what it is, but we'll have to lobby the government to get rid of it.
That is it in a nutshell. That from my perspective, I think this is my 32nd year of being involved in local government audits. I just don't think there's a good return on investment. The wider question, I think, for the mayors and politicians in local government is to ask the question, why do you need it every year? Why does the scope need to be what it is? Because to be fair to Deloitte and the Audit New Zealand, they're simply doing what they're being told to do. And the costs are what they cost in order to do a good job. But you're absolutely right, Your Worship, the wider question is why. It's hard to understand how an organisation of this size should be spending $250,000 of ratepayers' money to provide very limited assurance. So I totally support this is a political issue, I think, more than anything else. Does anyone else have any other questions? Councillor Jeffries.
Just following on from your comments here, Mr. Chairman, of course, this is just for the annual report. Of course, once we get into the LTP, we're looking at another fee on top of that again. So I just forget what the LTP was last time. Yeah, I just had just a few clarifications more than anything. On page 24, it makes reference to computer share investment services.
Yeah.
And then on page, I think it's 28, they talk about covenant trustee services. I'm aware of the relationship that we have with LGFA.
Yes.
But I've never heard of these other two. Where do they fit into the picture? And what relationship do they have with the LGFA?
So Covenant is our trustee. So every council or everyone that borrows from the LGFA has to have a trustee. I believe the majority, if not all of the councils use Covenant anyway. It used to be called Perpetual Trust, I think, and it had another name before that. It's changed names like 3 times. But yeah, so they're the ones that our trustee is with. So they administer a lot of the stuff on our behalf. Computer Share are actually the ones that do the actual physical transferring the money on behalf of the LGFA. So they do all the government banking as well, also the borrowing and bonds and all that sort of stuff. So they manage that side of things. They do the actual physical transfers, interest calculations, all that sort of stuff. They're the ones who pay the interest to do the invoicing. So that's what they do. So Covenant is our trustee. They're the ones that do the little management. We pay them a monthly fee for the privilege, which is not much, it's like $20 a month or something. And then, yeah. And so that's sort of the relationship. So LGFA is the one that gives us the money, comes through Computer Share to us, and then Covenant manages the relationship.
Yeah, it sounds like someone's clipping the ticket, but
Potentially,
yeah. Look, it's only a minor point too, but there's a number of references in there for clause 10.2.6a, but I couldn't find anywhere in the document that explained what that clause meant. It's probably just a minor thing, but I just wondered whether we could have some clarification on that at some stage, not necessarily today.
I think, yeah, so that's of the dementia trust deed, which obviously I didn't include. the different trustee. Yeah, that's what that's referencing to. So, so that is just, so that clause in the trustee, the trustee, and I can't remember the exact wording of it, but that basically says that the part of the whole thing is that it will be audited. That's effectively what I'm saying. Okay.
Yep. On page 36, it is. There's a reference there to the valuation of roading, bridges, culverts, etc.
Yeah.
I'm not too sure what our timetable is this year for reviews, valuation reviews, but I know we have had, it's been a sticking point for us from time to time in the past. So I just wondered whether we were going to get into those a little earlier this year or not.
So, I mean, we can't actually do them until after the end of June. So this year's, at this point, it's the water assets are due to be revalued. I was just looking this morning at what the price adjusters have done since they were last revalued, which was 30 June 23. And we're looking at about 6% increase since then. That was the end of December. I believe I would expect that we probably see a further increase on that when we get the March figures, given everything that's happening with regards to transport and fuel and that situation. So we probably will have to revalue those. There was a part of me that was thinking maybe we could get away with not doing it because there's no requirement to them every 3 years. The accounting standards just basically say they have to be done on a regular basis if there's sufficient movement. I was kind of hoping there wasn't going to be sufficient movement, particularly considering that we're getting rid of our water and wastewater assets.
Yep.
I was going to try and see if we can get away with not actually revaluing them because there's no requirement from Waikato Waters for us to revalue the assets because they're going to do that when they take them on anyway. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to get away with that. So we'll probably have to revalue those this year. It'll be based on March adjustments. So we can't really get started until sort of May when those March figures come out anyway. But we will get it because it's done in-house with water. Water's kind of a bit easier than roading. Part of the roading issue last year in terms of timing was we also had a whole change in standards. We went to the asset management data standards. So it was a new way of grouping all the assets. So there was a whole heap of extra work we had to do. With water, we're not doing that. So everything's the same as it was 3 years ago. We just need to update the figures, plug them in, and then we'll send it off to whoever we get to do the peer review. So we should hopefully get that done quicker. And then the audit side of things should be quicker as well.
Councillor Jeffries, do you mind if I just jump in just on that particular issue?
Yes.
So I wanted to unpick that a little bit. You're selling your water and wastewater assets as at the 30th of June, is that correct?
30 June 27.
27.
So not this year, next year.
Not this year,
We're
next
not
year.
selling. We're transferring them to the new entity, but then in return we'll get a shareholding that'll be worth probably exactly the same amount anyway.
So valuation is critical.
Yep.
But the point you're making is that the transfer of assets doesn't happen until 27, not 26. So I misunderstood that.
Yeah.
And then I had a conversation with auditor on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things was that I raised was a very issue that Councillor Jeffries has raised, which is this 3-layered approach to valuation where and then we get an independent peer reviewer and then the auditor overviews that work. And I said, this is nuts. His response was, well, we found problems in the past.
Yeah.
And therefore there is some value in audit. One of the things that came out of that conversation was that we use effectively depreciated replacement cost, and then we apply the indices, the appropriate indices to that depreciated replacement cost in order to get a new value. He made an interesting comment, which I thought I'd raise with you, which was, why do we carry assets at fair value rather than cost less depreciation? Because he said that life would be a lot simpler for everyone if it was valued at cost less depreciation.
certainly make a difference to our funding.
It would.
Yeah. In terms of depreciation, if we've got fund, make a big difference.
Yeah, we'd have a lot less depreciation. Yeah, if you're not by revaluing. Yeah, so I guess because we've been revaluing since we've got the assets in, we're kind of, I guess, stuck in that loop, if that's the right way to put it. And that now that we've been revaluing, to go back to cost would have a significant
Impairment.
Yeah, we'd reduce our balance sheet substantially.
Does it really, but what are the implications of reducing, forgive me for asking non-accountant questions, but what are the implications of, because you're not really a balance sheet driven organisation.
No, that's true. It would reduce our depreciation expense substantially, which would reduce our depreciation reserves, which would increase our borrowing substantially to fund.
Decrease your borrowing.
Increase borrowings to fund all our capital expenditure because we wouldn't have the cash reserves put aside to use to spend on that capital.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, would significantly change our borrowing debt to cash ratios and some stuff. Yeah.
Can I leave you to reflect on that? Because this is a point that the auditor raised.
Yep. Yeah.
He said, I've always thought it strange that councils will carry these assets at fair value when he thought that costless depreciation was a better way of doing it. Can I leave you experts to just reflect on that? Because I don't want to push you into giving an answer now, but I would love for you to give us maybe a short considered view, Brendan, when you've had a chance to think about it.
Yep.
Because if the, because if the auditor is raising this question, it's worthwhile considering, because my view of our auditor is that he is pretty practical and pretty frank, which is helpful. Sorry, Graham, I interrupted you.
No, I was just going to say, isn't it more around the depreciation? Because we're funding the depreciation to cater for the replacement of those assets. So you think it would be underfunding.
Yeah, which would be the borrowings we're doing raised up offset. Yeah, no, I'll definitely have a think about it. I might get in touch with Bruno, try and get from him as well what he was sort of getting at, and see if I can pick his brain a bit about where he's coming from.
Yeah, that would be helpful. I'd love to, I think we'd all love to get your thoughts on that, maybe in writing, just something really brief. Once you've had a chance to think about it, that'd be great.
Yep.
Sorry,
No, that's
Councillor
fine.
Jeffries, I interrupted you. You carry on.
No, thank you. Yes, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Look, I don't know where I'm getting ahead of myself here, but on page 47.
Yep.
Where it talks about local water done well.
Yes.
The 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph there where it talks about includes several complex considerations. I wondered why stranded overheads weren't part of that.
I guess from their point of view, it's from an accounting point of view, it's probably not some. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm an accounting. An auditing point of view, it's probably not something they're worried about. They're more worried about the transfer and all that sort of stuff. I guess stranded assets are more an our issue, not so much theirs. So they're probably not going to be focusing on that sort of information, because they effectively, if they were going to be looking at that, they'd just be relying on me saying this is a stranded overhead, this is blah blah blah. They're not going to know what is or isn't a stranded overhead easily, because they don't have the knowledge that we have. So effectively, all they're doing is they're just double checking what I've done, which kind of seems pointless, because we've had other people internally and external consultants that we've got helping us checking that for us anyway. So why do we need Deloitte to sign up? That's just my, I don't know exactly why they excluded it. That's just my theory as to why they probably included it.
Yep. Oh, well, that's fair enough. It just occurred to me that that going forward, any stranded overheads will obviously have an impact on future funding requirements.
Yeah.
So I thought that possibly should be part of an audit, not necessarily this year, but maybe next year.
They may look at that as part of the LTP audit.
Yes,
as opposed to the annual report audit, which is the annual report audit is historical.
Yeah, that's true.
So
That's a good point. Yeah, probably it has become to do the LTP process that they will be checking to make sure those overheads are covered. And I believe we've also got a workshop coming on that whole situation soon.
Yeah, through you, Chair, sorry, I didn't say that before. We do have a workshop coming up on Te Paia Tāwhiti, which is our Horizons project, Life After Water. We're estimating at the moment that our stranded overheads will fit somewhere in the 700,000s, which if we look at our neighbours makes sense with their calculations around stranded overheads. We've already managed to roll back and make some savings in the next annual plan. But we've still got about $500,000 worth of stranded overheads to find. So in the context of the long-term plan, council will have some choices to make. And some of that may be around reducing service levels so that we can, especially with rates capping coming in, if it comes in, we can, bring it back. So that'll all come to you in a workshop.
Okay, that is great. Okay, just a couple of, sorry to take up the time. On page 55 then, where it talks about, early implementation efforts recommended. It talks about, insurance contract.
Oh, yes, the new standard around insurance contracts.
Yeah, the insurance contracts in the public sector.
Yeah.
Has that changed anything for us? What
I
exactly
must admit, I haven't actually looked at that standard yet, or that amendment,
Right.
so I'm not too sure. It doesn't take effect for us until next financial year anyway, because it's periods on or after 1 January 26. So that'll be the period beginning 1 July 26. So it'll be next year. So that's why I haven't put that one yet. I think from what I have seen in terms of emails from the XRB and stuff like that about accounting standards, I don't think there's a huge amount of impact for us. It might just be around disclosure more than anything. So we already disclose information about our insurance on our structure assets and operating assets as part of requirements for disclosures in their annual report anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a whole heap of additional work involved.
Okay, just the way the world is at the moment, it would be nice to think that maybe there may be some potential savings for us as a result of this.
Yeah, hopefully, but
Hopefully,
I'll have a look at it.
Yeah, no, very good. Thanks, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Does anyone else, I've just got 2 quick questions. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, so Brendan, I had a frank conversation with Bruno about the section on page 50 about ESG and climate change.
Oh, yeah.
I certainly accept, and I think everyone in the district, as a result of the tragic events of last month, accept that regardless of your view about climate change, the reality is that we are seeing more and more extreme weather events, and that climate adaptation is a really, really important issue across the country. But I did say to him, why are you involved and concerned about ESG issues? He said it's because the Office of the Auditor General tells me to be.
Yeah.
Do we have an ESG policy?
We have, I guess.
Not asking for one,
Yes.
because that's the last thing I would suggest.
I guess we have policies that impact on it, but we don't have a specific policy.
Okay. So I just wanted to note that I'd raised that issue. For the reason that His Worship mentioned earlier, I can't for the life of me understand why the Office of the Auditor General is concerned about your approach to environmental, social and governance issues. And then the final point that I wanted to raise was on page 51.
Yes.
That is the reference to materiality.
Oh, yes.
So there is a specific request that the committee satisfy itself that the level of materiality chosen is appropriate. So we've got this distinction drawn between materiality and performance materiality, which is on its face bonkers. So I asked him, what's the difference? And the answer seems to be materiality is really a made up number, and performance materiality is what we're actually going to audit to. So from your perspective, Brendan, I thought I'd just ask on behalf of the committee, are you satisfied with the materiality level that they've chosen, which is $720,000?
Yes, I mean, it's consistent with how they've previously obviously calculated it. It's about the same as what it has been previously. I mean, anything. And then, yeah, there's an extra step to this that I don't think they've really covered here. So the performance materiality then feeds into sample size testing, all that sort of stuff. And they take a percentage of that big figure to work out whether the samples are big enough to test or not. So yeah, I'm reasonably comfortable with that figure.
My gut indicates to me that for the revenue size of this business, it's a roughly right.
Yeah.
Okay. And then just one final question, really for Kaya. Kaya, page 65, the final report comes to the Risk and Assurance Committee in October. Does that match against our proposed meeting schedule? Maybe you could just check that for us and come back.
I think because October is also when we have to adopt the annual report. So I think we already had a scheduled special meeting for adopting the annual report anyway.
Okay, if you wouldn't mind just checking that for us, Kaya, and just come back to us maybe after morning tea. Okay, so unless anyone else has got anything else, I'll now put the resolution, which is all the way back on page. Thank you. I'm just trying to find the resolution. Here we go. Which is we receive the engagement letter and recommend that His Worship sign those letters on behalf of ODC. I'll move that and Councillor Jeffries will second it. Everyone comfortable? Good. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Brendan. Much appreciated. Okay. So the next item is health and safety. Noah, good morning. Thanks for your report. Am I right to say this is February's report?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So on that basis, then the obvious question is, in your judgment, there's been no material change in the risk position of the organisation since February.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We're managing the EOC. We had a health safety person there, and that was managed appropriately. So no major changes.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to draw out from your report? I just have one question.
So the only aspect I want to talk about was the training and the 86% of compulsory training being booked or completed for existing staff. So it's dropped from 100%. So that isn't unexpected with the new starters, and also us obviously with expiries of certificates. And so we're on the path to getting that up to 100% again. So there's just the natural flow of things.
No, I said I had one question. I actually have two. Just as a result of the severe weather event, that didn't highlight or identify any additional risks that you weren't already aware of within the organisation?
None at this stage. That we're aware of the ones that are existing, and we're working on those ones with implementing new health and safety system. And so with that, it's also going to make it easier to work remotely and to fill in forms remotely. So there's more up-to-date information, which is probably one of the risks that we have.
And that's a Q2 launch, is that right?
Yes. So yeah.
Great.
Can I just add to that through you, Chair? So we did get some feedback through after the event that staff, some staff needed a chance to decompress. For many of our staff, it was their first time in an EOC in a declared event. And some of the things that they encountered were, a bit traumatic. So we organised 4 sessions, 4 1-hour workshops, facilitated that they were able to attend. And we had, I think we had about 30 I haven't got the numbers, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think we had about 30 staff attend those workshops. So yeah, that
That's a
was
great
something else we provided.
Thank you very much. I just have one other question. Do any of my colleagues have any other questions on this paper? Councillor Jeffries.
Just on clause 4.17, no. How many press ups have you done?
Unfortunately, I didn't get to the full 2,000. I got stuck in the EOC and did that, but we did do them at the EOC one night, and we did get. Yeah, you were there. Yeah, so Rodney.
So have you reached your target? The overall target's been achieved, is it?
I believe it has. Yes, it
Yeah,
has,
good man. Okay, good to
Yeah.
see.
No, I'm a really big fan of the EAP assistance program, but I'm equally a big fan of making sure that where there are lessons to be learned or feedback that can help us improve the business, that we learn those. Now, obviously, there are confidentiality issues in relation to specific people, but I'm really keen to know whether you talk to the EAP people to find trends or themes which are not referable back to individuals that can help us learn. Do we
Yeah.
do that?
Yes, so we get a quarterly report from Clearhead. The problem that we have is that our EAP use is so small that providing data on the usage would identify individuals, so they don't give us specifics on those in that sense.
Okay. Okay. Are you, based on your experience in other organizations, do you think that the availability of assistance is widely enough known within the organization?
The availability of what's out there.
Of the assistance is widely enough known?
Yes, it's well known across the organisation, and we take an emphasis as managers to remind staff whenever there's those situations come up. So staff have openly and just been quite frank and said, "Hey, we are using this."
Good.
So there is that open communication with staff as well, which is quite nice to see.
Okay.
If I can just add to that, sorry, and I haven't shared this with the leadership team yet, but the facilitated workshops, and Noah, haven't shared with Noah yet, but the facilitated workshops that we had, our facilitator identified themes out of that. And she said one of the themes that came out was that staff really appreciated the fact that we have that program. They also appreciate the flexibility around sometimes we extend the limit of the counselling sessions if required, but some staff didn't know that they could access it again if they have another traumatic event, you know, in the same year or that. So that's perhaps information that we need to clarify.
Right.
And that was a good recommendation that came out
That's
of
a
that.
great pickup.
Yeah.
Excellent.
I haven't
Thanks.
shared that with you yet, Noah, sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Otherwise fine? All right, so I'll move that we receive that report and Councillor Carr will second it. All good. Okay, let's move on now to the outstanding debtors report. Teresa, welcome. No show without punch, Teresa. Okay, is there anything that I've got quite a few questions in relation to outstandings. So is there anything that either of you would like to say by way of introduction? Either in terms of bringing us up to right up to date or anything else that you wanted to observe?
Not that I can think of. Anything you wanted to cover off that's.
Yeah, no, I guess we'll just, take it as read, and I know we do have some updates on some of the long outstanding ones that we'll probably do outside of the meeting.
Okay,
But apart from that, no, nothing. I can think of.
Thank you. So colleagues, any questions in relation to this paper? For those of us who run our own businesses, I think we all understand that collecting your debts is a pretty critical part of managing anyone's business. That's where your working capital often comes from. So I get pretty grizzly when I see debts beyond 90 days. I came from an organisation where the owners stopped getting paid if your debts got beyond a certain level. So I always thought that was a very good way of running a business. Can we just talk about the Waikeria prison and the building consents? How much is owed by the government?
So for that particular, the building control side of things, it's, we've just written it off another small amount. So it's now 150,000. So that's the 180,744. Now they've come back to that and are querying some more of that charging. And so we're doing some additional work at the moment, Tony's team and us finance, to confirm or refute their claims, I guess.
Is there an ability to set off any money we owe them?
No, because it's corrections we don't really owe any money to. It's not much we actually pay them for, so no, there's nothing to offset it against. If you took a wider government view, I guess you could make an argument there is money there to other government departments, but they probably not take their clients not getting paid because corrections. That's paid them. Yeah.
If we're being frank,
Yes.
are we satisfied that these monies are owed, or are they genuine disputes?
I'll leave that to Tony. Oh, no, we
Thanks, Tony.
I knew there's a reason I came in. Thank you. So
The timing is always a third.
this is a legacy issue.
Right.
So before my time, when we set up Waikeria, the arrangement was a bulk fund that was drawn down as phase one was regulated. So they paid us a bulk fund and that was drawn down. We went through a transition with previous building manager going on leave for sick leave for an extended period. Then we had an acting manager came in. Now we've got a new manager employed. And so we've lost a bit of the historical knowledge around that. And my predecessor also had some knowledge around that. So we've got some legacy challenges around loss of institutional knowledge. At the Waikeria and CPB, they don't have that. So CPB is the subcontractor who owns us the money. There was an issue, or not an issue, but a challenge around our previous fees and charges used to include building inspections as part of the building consent fee. We then decided that we would separate that out because we weren't recovering what we thought we should from building inspections. So that happened during the transition period. So we're under investigation in terms of we've had it contested. We're doing some more fact checking around that, around what they're claiming, and that's in process at the moment. It may well be that they have a case in the sense that we may have been overcharging, but we haven't got that evidence yet for us. So it's still a work in progress, and we haven't quite landed yet on the final, I guess, confirmation where council's position is.
Okay. I wonder, Brendan and Tony, whether for the next meeting we could get an update, maybe even in public excluded, just in terms of where we're at with this particular issue. That would be helpful, Tony. Thanks.
Yes, yeah, I would suggest that because the next meeting I believe is May, isn't it? We should have done the investigation and probably reached a conclusion with them, hopefully, by then. So yeah, we could definitely do a report on that, where we ended up.
Thank you. The next issue is in relation to 4.5, the Westridge development.
Yes.
Is that something you want to discuss now or later?
I believe Tanya will probably give you an update on that.
Okay, that's
Same time.
That's fine, thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, 4.8.
Yes.
I just wondered, is it possible to show our rate arrears in the 3 rating areas? So rural, Odo community, Carfi community, just to give us a bit of a feel for where the hotspot is.
Potentially, yeah. I'm just trying to think of the reports that I get out to get that information.
Yep.
I think I could do that.
Okay,
Yes.
can I leave that one with you?
Yep.
Just, yeah. And the other one was 4.10. To see our water debt is double in 12 months is a bit of a concern. So I just wondered whether you had some comments around that, what's been done to.
Yeah, so I mean, it has increased from the previous 12 months, but then that 12 months was quite a lot lower than the previous. So when you actually look at it like that, I think 25 was possibly an anomaly, and there was some prepayments where some money came in a bit earlier. Because it is sort of consistent. The 24 to the 26 does sort of match with the increases that we have had. Having said that, there were quite a few large rural ones that were outstanding at the end of Feb. Teresa's done some work on chasing some of those up since. The ones that are usually pretty good at paying, so it's possible they didn't get the bill. Things got lost in the mail, as we've discovered. The more and more we have, as the mail has shrunk in terms of the post shops and all that sort of stuff, it does seem to be getting more issues sometimes with things not being received. And that is something Teresa, when she's getting in touch with people, is also pushing emailing going forward. So we reduce the likelihood of that happening again. So I think a couple of those that you got in touch with have paid pretty much straight away. So that figure I think has come down quite a bit already. So yes, there's some of those issues. And then, yeah, like I say, I think in terms of consistency with the trend, I think 25 is actually the anomaly where it's down as opposed to, yeah.
Okay, and just following on from that, when we have the transition to Waikato Waters.
Yes.
And I guess debtors go over as part of that deal.
Yeah, so anything that
the question there, I guess, is,
Yeah.
well, there's 2 parts.
Yeah.
Is that correct? But secondly, are they going to be willing to take on debt that's 90 plus days overdue? I mean, or are they going to take the whole package, or are we going to be left with some residual debt?
No, so any debt will stay with us because it's our debt. We're the ones billing at the moment. So we will be the ones who will be chasing it up. From 1 July 2027, so the board has recently made a decision that they will be trying to stand up. So there was talk at one point that we would still be doing the invoicing for them initially, and then at some point the regular system stood up. That debt would be their responsibility. Their board has now made a decision that they are going to attempt to get a billing system set up by 1 July 2027. So we won't have to do any billing for them. So all the billing in our system will be solely ours, and so that'll be our debt that we'll hold. There may be obviously timing issues where it might be a few months that we do have to bill for them. That's still being worked through the Weekends Business case at the moment about that. So in that respect, anything they bill will be their problem. Anything before 1 July 2027 is our problem. 30 June 2027, I guess, is our debt to collect because it's still under the Rating Act. So we still have the powers of the Rating Act to collect that money. Rating sales, mortgages, that sort of stuff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would say I've got my work.
Yes, I'll get to you in a minute. Councillor Butcher.
Through you, Chair. Yes, I suppose my question is just that, other than having your work cut out for you, what assurance do we have with collecting that debt pre-30th of June 27 when then people are going to get bills from Waikato Water done well, and they could be in the mindset of saying, right, I don't want to bother about council and what I owe them. Yeah, so that's basically my question.
Yeah, so I guess because we set our water rates under the Rating Act, which is the same for regular rates, we do have a lot of powers under that act. If they have a mortgage, we can go to the mortgagee and get the money out of the mortgagee, so they will pay us that money. So if they have a mortgage, water rates aren't a problem, get that money. With the way the mortgagee process works, I guess for those that are new, from the 1st of August, the year after the rates are due, so the end of the rating year is 30th of June. From that 1st of August that year, we can write to the mortgagee and advise them we're going to make a claim, but then 3 months after that letter is when we actually make the claim. So we can't claim it now. Having said that, a lot of the banks aren't that good, and they just send us the money the minute we say we're going to do it. They're not technically supposed to. They're supposed to wait till the second claim. But for their ease, they do it. They're the ones I don't know if they're breaking any laws technically, but they're the ones that are doing it wrong, not us. So yeah, so we get the money out of them in sort of November, December, just depending on timing. So mortgagees, or anything with a mortgage is fine. Get all that. Anyone that doesn't have a mortgage, then we have to go down debt collection processes. If it's bad and if we want to pursue this, we can go down rating sales. So that's where we sell the property. There's a time frame for those. I can't remember it all off the top of my head, but it has to be over 70 years old. You have to go through the courts. The courts have to approve it, all that sort of stuff. There's also abandoned land, which obviously we've just been through that process with 131 Main North Road, which I think we'll give you an update about after the meeting as well. That's where the land nobody owns it, or we can't find the owners, or sometimes the owners have decided to abandon it. So we know who they are. They're just saying, no, we don't need them. So that's a way to get those. There will be some debt that we won't be able to get, particularly Māori land, for example. Our options are limited in terms of getting that under the Rating Act.
Yeah.
So it's really negotiation and debt collection. I hope that someone comes forward on those.
Okay, so similar, so my main question was about the water rates, but so same process in relation to general rate.
Yes, yeah, exactly the same process.
Thanks, Brenda.
Yep. Since the increase, I think there's a lot of people that pay by AP and direct debit.
Yeah.
And they probably have not increased their payment. Some of them just keep them rolling forever and never, and you have to remind them. So I think for us in that period, it's going to be a lot of advertising.
Yeah.
A lot of really pushing what's happening, informing the public. And I think that's going to be our key to actually getting bills up to date paid.
So true. Very, very important, because as soon as they see or know just a word that says you are now transferred over to Waikato Water's done well, they'll forget about what may or could be owed
Yes.
to Ōtorohanga District Council.
So we'll need to up our game.
Well done, thank you.
Thanks, councillor Wishart. Your worship.
Oh, mine was more a comment, because I forgot to pay my water rates. But anyway, it's because
Possibly should have said that in pigs, your worship.
I've paid them since, but it's because it comes like a couple of months before you need to pay it. It's kind of like not a current bill, So I'm just wondering if there's ever been any looking into, because you used to kind of paying, the 20th month or whenever it is,
Yeah.
And you kind of get them, and that's what happened. It got lost in my emails,
Right.
like a couple of months ago, and I mean,
This reminds them.
yeah, but you didn't. I thought, shit, that's not look too good. Me not paying my water, but I'm just wondering if we've got a really good system, maybe.
Yeah, so we the due dates for water rates and for regular rates are set by council as part of the rates resolution process, which we'll get to as part of the plan.
Yeah.
So if you wanted to change, you could change that. There are some requirements in the Rating Act that you have to give, I believe it's 4 weeks notice from the time the notice is received to when it's due. Or there might be penalty dates. So there is some requirements. There has to be a certain number of weeks between, which is why we give that 2-month period. But we've also always aligned at least those the 2 billings for the rurals and Kawhia with the same due date as the rates. So everything's got the same due date. And then obviously in town we have 2 additional billings. So they have last Friday the following month. So
I think his worship makes a really good point. I think the reality is that 2 months is too long a period because people do literally just forget about it.
Yeah.
the 20th of the month following or within a month makes much more sense from a practical perspective.
Yeah, and I guess as part of the rates resolution process for the second plan, we can have a look at what the requirements are of the act and potentially if you wanted to move it to the 20th as opposed to, so we've always used historically the last Friday of the 10th month till, but if you wanted to go to the 20th, I believe we could do that without changing our rates. No amendment to an LTP, it's just a rates resolution thing in a year. So that's something I'll make note of that we could potentially look at as part of the annual plan.
Great, thank you. Councillor Barker.
Yeah, with the outstanding money, obviously there'll be penalty and rates in there. Are they recoverable as well?
Yes, so penalties, we charge penalties on rates, we don't charge penalties on water. We have put it in our rates resolution to be able to, but we just never have. And I guess part of that was because of the rural schemes as well. We never really socialised that with some committees. The rural schemes, we were going to do that, so we haven't actually implemented it. Yeah, so the penalties are recoverable. People owe us those penalties. We do use those sometimes as a bargaining chip to say to people, oh, well, if you're going to pay, particularly I've got a substantial amount, if you pay us that, we will consider writing off part of these penalties. Because from a accounting point of view and our budgeting point of view, we treat the penalties as bonus income. We don't actually rely on that to fund anything. So that gives us the option to write that off if we want to convince people to pay their bills.
I was going to say with the penalties, we split the penalties up into what we call instalment penalties and arrears penalties. So we charge a 10% instalment penalty if it's not paid by the penalty date, but then we also charge 10% on the outstanding arrears at 1 July, and we do that twice a year. And so it's often those arrears penalties when someone's having difficulty paying rates that they because you're charging penalty on penalty, they accumulate quite rapidly, and so we often use those arrears penalties as an incentive for people to enter into a payment arrangement, because otherwise what happens if we continue to charge those arrears penalties, they never get ahead, and sometimes if it's a long-standing rates problem, the penalties are actually more than what the total rates are, and so the payment arrangement just won't cater for it.
Any other questions? Just, Teresa, just a question for you. If you just think about the environment at the moment that you're working in, paint us a picture of the collections process that you're going through. Is it harder, easier, about the same? Trying to get a sense of where the affordability picture looks like across the district.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would say with the recent weather event, I actually thought that it was going to take a huge impact. I would probably say it's been the opposite. People have been more conscious of getting their rates paid. As far as debt, I've been focusing quite a bit on the really old debt.
Yeah.
And that's been quite fruitful. We've really managed that quite well. So as Brendan alluded to, we've had one tender which is closed. We've got 2 potential rating sales moving forward and 2 that are initial stages, which is nothing we've really done before.
Good.
And we have 2 sovereign cases. Yay. So, but I think it's really holding its own. I don't think there's any dramatic change one way or another.
So when Teresa, you look at these arrears penalties, which are increases year on year, from your perspective, you don't see those as a sign of material problem. It's just a timing issue, as we saw in the difference between February and March in terms of collections.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. As I said, I think people have got more conscious. Yes. And yeah, but I haven't really seen any really huge trend.
Okay, that's exactly what I was going to ask. That's exactly what I'm asking.
Mm.
And I guess the benefit of having only about 5,000 rate payers, you know who the people are that are in arrears, and you're able to get them on the phone. It's not like it's a large organisation where it's very difficult to get to target people individually.
Mm,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Does anyone else? Oh, councillor Carr.
Yeah, so just around those sovereign ones, have we had any experience with those in the past? And if so, how do we deal with it?
Not prior to these two that I.
Mm.
Yeah, and so I guess the first one we had, we just got some legal advice. Because they were sending us nice, lovely thick documents and every reason why we should, they don't know rates and all this.
They'll still drive on the road, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got legal advice from our legal advisors about how we should respond and just don't, just keep sending bills out.
Do our debt process.
Yeah, do their process, it's that's done.
Mm.
The second one, basically treated the same.
And that
Are we
will,
confident we're going to get money out of it?
We have options, they're both on freehold land, so we can eventually go down the route if we want to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't got to that point yet, quite those timeframes we have to hit. But it is approaching kind of regularly one of them, I believe. The other one's probably through May. So yeah, I guess then it will come a process. Do we want to buy it? Because do we want to buy that fight? It's again the next question, particularly when it comes to sales. It's people that are very much don't believe our authority in the first place. Great. And I guess that, I mean, that's the whole thing with rating sales. Not to be rating sales in general is there's the yes, we get money side of things, but it's also the political and wider community perception considerations that can take into it.
I guess I can make this point because I don't live in the district. But you know, one of the things I really have been delighted about in terms of the work Brendan, you and Teresa have done in the last couple of years. For me, this is about fairness in the community.
Mhm.
So for every ratepayer who doesn't pay their bills on time, their services are being subsidised by their neighbours. So it's not just about some faceless company.
Mm.
You represent the community. And you know, that's why I'm a huge believer in the work that you're doing and the fact that you're looking to turn the heat up on people that are not paying the bills, because it's just not fair.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, I'm very conscious of the fact that these people here are the ones at the pointy end, because you are the ones who are ultimately accountable to your communities. But as an outsider looking in, for me, it's very much about community fairness. So thanks for the work you do. And keep doing it. Okay.
Seems like you're not about to retire yet, Teresa.
Okay, so we will move that we receive this report, and I'll move that, and councillor Barker will second that. Thank you, Teresa. Keep up the good work. Okay.
pay rise, don't be wrong. So
No.
wrong forum.
Yeah.
Wrong forum, I'm afraid.
It's a Tanya question, not.
Okay, I think what we'll do is we'll take this report next, and then I think we'll take a short break for morning tea. So I think this one will be fairly quick. This is the outstanding management letter reports, Brendan, from the last year's audit. Basically, we have made progress from last month. We're now down to 3 being finalised. Are we satisfied we should be able to get them done in time for this year's audit? Sounds like the answer is yes.
Yes, yeah, I'm pretty sure, well, the overdue policy, yes, I'll definitely bring the updated debt policy to the main meeting.
Yep.
That'll get that one done.
Yep.
I'll also go back and double check with no other policies coming due that they might pick me up on that haven't been done.
Yeah.
And then the loan receivable for the Kiwi House, obviously, as we pointed out, we've extended the term. I guess in terms, yeah, it depends how much report we want to do on recoverability. Yeah, so that's probably Graham and I will, but we'll definitely make some progress whether we actually Whether it's enough to satisfy audit is also another question. And that's also a point with the ones that I've highlighted in green is that we think we've done them, but they may then find something else.
Yeah, but you know, as we've, one of the things that I've encouraged you and Graham to do, and this committee has encouraged you and Graham to do in the past, is at the end of the day, the audit view is an opinion.
Yes.
And this is a lightly resourced organisation. And you have, to your credit, in the past, pushed back on those things which are more of a counsel of perfection.
Yeah.
Rather than something that's realistic and practical for this organisation. So I just encourage you to continue to take that view. Councillor Butcher.
Just in regards to that and about the Kiwi House loan for items in progress in regards to the auditors. We've talked about that through council anyway, as workshops and meetings. So does that help in relation to that and to satisfy auditors that the councillors are taking on that information and responsibility and talking about that and recommending on that?
Yeah, we'll go towards it. I mean, obviously from Deloitte's point of view, the other thing they're worried about is how we're recording it in terms of value. And so the recoverability will have potentially an impact on that value that we're holding it at. Do we have to impair because we're not likely to get the money? So they're looking at it from that, but obviously councillors talking about it in workshops and council meetings will obviously inform their work as well. They do. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can just sort of talk there, what they've done in the past, Councillor Butcher has actually looked at the Kiwi House's affairs as well, you know, so not just councillors. So they, you know, they've got a new general manager there now. There's some things changing, you know, so you know, hopefully within the next space of a year, they may be in a position to start repaying that loan. So it's not just from our point of view. Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All right, I'll move and Councillor Butcher will second that we receive this report. Thank you, Brendan. Let's take a 10-minute break, grab a cup of coffee, a biscuit, and then we'll get back to the paper on the Mayoral Disaster Relief Fund. Thanks, folks. in particular that you wanted to draw to our attention before we get to questions?
I just want to update that this report is now updated because the committee's meeting every week. They've now spent or granted over $80,000.
So that's up from the
I think it was,
$50-odd thousand that was reported in this?
yes,
Okay,
that's right.
thank you. That's great. Is there anything else that you wanted to draw to our attention?
No, not,
And are you satisfied that we've complied to date, both with our policy and government expectations?
yes.
Excellent. I know you've been very focused on that, but I thought it was useful to just get that from you. Colleagues, do any of you have any questions about this paper? Okay, well done, Kaya. That's very well done. No questions is a good sign. So I will move, and His Worship will second that we receive your report. Thank you. And thanks to you and the committee for the work that you're doing. Okay, let's turn now to the next paper, which is the capital projects report. And what a difference a month makes, Mark.
Good morning. I've asked Robbie to attend as well, because I think there's probably going to be some questions around one of the areas that he's a lot closer to than I am.
That's fine. So, Mark, from my perspective, obviously a lot has changed since February. I'm really interested in sort of the macro position, which is really around, in terms of your current capital program, where do you see the deferrals happening? Where are the big trade-offs? And what are the dollar implications? And I'm just looking from a material perspective, not looking at dollars and cents issues.
So I'll take the report as read.
Yeah.
Then, Mr. Chair. So it's probably our focus is probably in the roading area.
Yes.
I've talked in there about the reseals program. They're supposed to be back in our area today. I think it's unlikely they're going to appear today, given the weather over the weekend. It's looking more and more likely that remaining 40% won't get completed this year, so we'll have to defer that to next year. Thankfully, a lot of the other capital works that sit in roading and in particular in Three Waters remain relatively unaffected at this stage. There was some delays through the weather event on our OPS water services contractor coming back into town, but we're confident that they're still progressing really well through that work. Probably some time concerns, if anything, but nothing to be overly concerned at this stage. But roading is one of those that's probably going to defer. Obviously, some of the work that we're supposed to be doing is what we'll call BAU, has had to take a bit of a back step with some of the emergency works, but we're dealing with a lot of that emergency works as project related, which we're getting an external consultant to do focus completely on. So yeah, other than that, financially, yeah, we've had a bit of extra funding this year, so that will put a bit of pressure on the team to spend it. Thankfully, it's not that difficult to spend money in the roading area. They tend to be really good at that. And yeah, so I suppose from a risk point of view, anything we push into next year becomes a little concerning, because we do have a finite period that we have to spend that money by the end of the next financial year. Otherwise, we lose that funding. So, but from a macro level, Mr. Chair, it's probably the reseals is the focus at the moment, which will mean they have to add some distance to next year's reseals. if we have a different weather climate again next year, that could be an impact on us again.
I think what we're learning is that we're seeing 1 in 100-year events every year.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not just the rain, it's the temperature that affects the reseals. So as we move in, I think I looked at the weather forecast last night, they're suspecting we're going to have a bit of a colder week or so in front of us, and anything that drops below, I think it's 11, 10 degrees overnight, you really don't want to be resealing roads. So from a risk point of view, we're better to push it out than reseal it and actually get a poor job.
So in terms of the dollars concerned, there's no material risk. The issue seems to be about impact on the next year's work program and the risks that creates in terms of NZTA funding. Have I heard you correctly?
Yeah, so when we get to the end of the NLTP or the end of the 3-year cycle, if we haven't spent that money, we effectively lose that money. We can't carry it over to the next 3 years. Whereas during the first or through the 3-year period, we have a limited amount of flexibility to move years 1 to 2 to 3. 3 is the end. If you haven't spent it by then, you've lost that funding.
So when is the end of year 3?
So what are we now? We'll be entering the final year of our LTP in July 1. So it'll be this financial year. So by July next year, if we haven't spent our funding, we'll effectively lose it.
So thoughts turning to how you might mitigate that?
Yeah, well, I think there's probably another aspect that we have to, not just a funding risk, but the risk of us obviously delaying work as we end up with backlogs, which is even a relatively high risk as well. So as we're pulling together our roading amp now, we'll be looking at how many reseals we have to do over the next 5 years, how far are we behind in our current program, and if we end up with a compounding effect. So we'll be really keen to get those done next year. We can program it, we can get the contractor in place. The one thing we can't control is the weather. So we'll be, conversations I've had with Paul is that we'll be expecting our reseal contractor to be in our district by November, ready to go. You'll see I've highlighted in that report about the balancing of cost against delaying work. And I think the cost of having more backlog is far higher than us absorbing a little bit of extra cost now and getting the work done. So we would be looking to sort of, I suppose, consider those prices next year, depending on what happens in the next 6 months, but really keen to get those programs done, if it means even absorbing a small amount of price.
Councillor Butcher.
In layman's terms, sorry, through you, Chair Peter, Mark, in layman's terms, when you say absorb more cost, could it mean that we ask them to work more hours or extra hours so they get that backlog done, and we just wear that extra cost of extra work for the contractors, if the contractor's available? Like, are they available to do work like that?
Yeah, so they have a 3-year contract with us, and they have to deliver on what we've asked them to deliver. So if they don't, we end up in contractual discussions. So what will generally happen is, as our price to deliver the service increases, we have to reduce the size of the program. So it might be say very basic, we might have to reduce the kilometres we do. So we have to balance that every year. But to the moment, 60%, so I don't know, just do that in my head. What have we done? About 23 kilometres, say. So there's still about 15 odd to do. That's not a lot in a reseal program, but as we deal with the increased costs, we start knocking kilometres off to stay within the budget. Otherwise, we have to, there's another option. We could fund it through rates, but that's not a good option because this is a co-funded project. So you would just reduce the kilometres. It's not a big reduction in the big program, but you wouldn't want to start knocking 20 kilometres off your program.
Councillor Barker.
When you talk about using funding, what's that funding with over that 3 year period?
Yeah, good question. So our FAR rate currently is 63%. So if we look at big round numbers here, it's about 30 million across 3 years. So as we come into year 3, there's a lot of pressure on us to make sure we spend that money. Yeah, but not, I mean, that doesn't mean we go out there and just start throwing money at stuff. You know, we want to spend it properly, but if you don't, if the numbers don't line up at the end of the year, it's actually lost income.
Just talking about resealing, because I want to get on to the subject of the seawall shortly. Just in relation to resealing, forgive me if this is a really stupid question, but I'm assuming that resealing involves petroleum-based products. Do we anticipate that there's going to be a material impact on your resealing program as a result of increased costs?
Yeah, and obviously the bitumen is one of the products we're looking at. Interestingly, it hasn't moved on the index at the moment, the March index. I'm suspecting by the April index we'll see an increase. But yeah, that balance, you know, it goes up and down all day, all year, the CPI. But you know, if you look at it globally, yes, petroleum-based products are increasing. Supply is obviously becoming an issue, so it'll only be natural that there'll be an increase in the bitumen at some point. We haven't seen it yet. We are anticipating that we will start to see some variation requests to contracts, which we'll have to deal with, which I've sort of highlighted in there about balancing the work against the.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Morning, Mark. Morning, Robbie. Mangati Road, I noticed, you know, that new bridge, but are all the residents on Mangati now got free and easy access in and out of the properties there? So there's no issues there in terms of access?
No issues at all. That bridge is, you know, credit to the roading team that managed to get a brand new bridge built in like 4 weeks.
Yeah,
whatever it was. You know, that road took quite a beating as far as damage through that storm, and yeah, they've got full access up there now.
No, well, I've had at least one of the residents contact me just to say thank you, not necessarily me, but thank you the team for the work that you did up there to get that access sorted out in such a quick time. So it was very much appreciated. I'd like that recorded if we can do that. The other question I had was, and Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased you raised it, it's to do with the seawalls, but we'll cover that one in a minute. And sorry, there was one other, but it can't be important. I forgot what it was. So I'll leave it for the seawalls. Thanks.
Your worship.
Just Mark and Robbie, just in so the funding, like for the storm, like the new bridge at Mangiti Road, that's out of a disaster, really. Like the government helped subsidise that in a higher rate, do they? But
yes. So the emergency works or the storm damage works, whichever name we want to put on it, is funded at a higher rate, which is 20% above your standard bar rate. So we're currently getting 83% funding on that work from the February storm event. Because we hadn't completed the work in the October event, we just can carry on into that. So everything will be funded at that 83%. Yeah, so including that.
Can't the reseals be emergency work? Anyway, no, sorry. No, I was just wondering because you obviously did a great job and got the bridge all done. And that's not only that; it's like, you know, for the amount of damage that, you know, was in the area, and the roading team, and, you know, people just chipped in and got things done. You know, like it's really awesome. It's massive ups to the amount of work that's been done. It's, probably huge and, well, it is huge, getting roads open and things like that. Only one little question on that though is some of the farmers that cleared their odd slip themselves, do they ever sort of send a bill in or anything, or you don't get anything like that, or?
No, I don't think I've ever seen any. Not in my time. Potentially some might, but not in my time. I haven't seen anything. I think they're generally,
Because it's, kind of thanks to them as well, helping the resilience,
Cool. Councillor Barker.
With that, they're talking about changing that road up, Ōtorohanga, like shipping equipment. Sort of costing them, that we started.
yeah. So, Paul, I've actually asked Paul to come in tomorrow to the workshop just to talk about the repair we're going to do up there. So, but I can tell you at this stage, it won't involve moving the river. So they've had a meeting up on site with the landowner, regional council and roading team, and we've got a solution. So hopefully, I think we're hoping to have Paul in around 1:30 tomorrow, and he can give a presentation on what the repair is going to look like. Yeah, it looks like a real good option.
Just as a matter of interest, with getting the bridge up so quickly, did that require a resource consent?
No, and I think when any of you do work under emergency works, you may have to do retrospective resource consents. So I think in a situation like this where we had regional council in the area clearing the river, us putting a new bridge, we continued to use the same abutments, so it was just the deck.
Replacing like for like.
Yeah, it didn't trigger a consent. I think if we were to start digging into the embankments as a new project that wasn't relating to an event, it would have triggered resource consent.
For those people that are concerned about how long it takes to get anything done in this country, it does wonder whether His Worship could take a leaf out of President Trump's book and declare a state of emergency that's permanent.
Yeah.
I already have, we're in recovery, so it just keeps going. We just keep announcing recovery.
Can we talk now, before we get to the seawall, about the Kawhia Wharf? We've got
Hang
two
on.
issues here as best as I can tell.
Hang on, I did have one question about that bridge.
I'm sorry, councillor.
So I feel like great effort in getting it done so quickly. I mean, the general feedback from most of the people who come through is that huge sense of relief, because technically that's a temporary bridge, right? No, I mean, so that's going to be there for all time. So main transport going to. Well, they want their money to money was
I think
in a month.
I think we've probably had that confusion quite a lot through the recovery, is that when we refer to the Mangiti Bridge, a lot of people are thinking it's the State Highway 39 bridge, but we're talking about Council's Bridge, 7 k's up Mangiti Road. So our bridge is a permanent repair. The one down on the highway is obviously a Bailey Bridge construction style temporary bridge until they construct their new bridge.
They given that time frame around when they might construct the new one?
No, I haven't, but I have had a calendar invite on Friday to a meeting on site to discuss that. So we're actually, as part of the work that NZTA are doing there, we've already signalled really early on that we'd like to fix the intersection while we're there. So that's been an LTP discussion for at least 2 LTPs now. So we're having a meeting. Can't tell you the date, can't remember, but in the coming weeks we'll be having a meeting on site to discuss that intersection plus what the new bridge will look like, I imagine. But it's their bridge. We'll follow. Yeah. But
Thanks, councillor. Can we turn now to just talk about the Kawhia Wharf? Seem to be 2 issues here that you've identified in paragraph 7 on 11, Mark. First, a possible linkage between damage and the use of the wharf and the pontoon. And secondly, more concerningly, the usage of the wharf does not cover major maintenance. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Because that seems to me to be nuts.
Yeah, well, I think that's a reality. It's a very expensive coastal asset that, as I've highlighted in this report, we're one piece of damage is obviously going to get covered by insurance, but we're actually undertaking a condition assessment on it shortly, which I suspect is going to highlight some structural issues that we potentially have to deal with. What that is, I don't know, but it is concrete reinforced steel construction sitting in salt water. So there's going to be something that'll get highlighted. So I'm not sure. I know there's quite a lot of discussion around the berthage fees and what we charge there, but the reality is it's a very expensive asset that needs to be maintained. And going forward, I imagine it's going to increase in cost.
So it's a council asset.
Correct.
Why? Why do you own a wharf?
That wharf goes back to, I think its original wharf was in the 1900s. So it's been a wharf for a very long time. And I think the coastal use was a lot different on the West Coast than what it is now. So the wharf has obviously had a few iterations. I think it's been flagged in the infrastructure strategy that should that wharf ever get to end of life, there would have to be a discussion around what is actually needed in Kawhia. A full commercial wharf may not be that option, but that would have to take, we'd have to look into that at the time. I think it would have to be something we would consult on. But is it still needed? I'm not sure. We'd have to look into that. But at the moment, it's predominantly used by the fishing trawlers there, commercial fishers, recreational fishing. It's a really good bombing platform for people to jump off. But there's probably other ways.
The user isn't to pay.
No, and it's apart from the commercial users, it's a free to use asset.
At a significant cost to other ratepayers who don't use it.
Yep.
Okay. So there's a community fairness issue there, isn't there, for elected members to reflect on? Okay. Councillor Butcher.
Yes, through you, Chair. In relation to the wharf then, just in regards to other wharfs around the whole of New Zealand, first one comes to mind is Ōtorohanga, and admittedly they have a little ferry that goes across to Cook's Beach then. So are wharfs not council assets, or are they regional council assets on average? Is it just that? No?
I can't speak for every wharf
Yep.
in the country, but I know this wharf in particular, including the boat ramps, are council assets.
Right.
Yep.
And the other councils through you, Chair, that I've worked in, like Waitaki District Council had 7 wharves that are owned in the Oamaru Harbour. Hokitika, the council owned Jackson Bay Wharf, Hutt City, the wharfs off Petone and other places, Seaview, owned by council. So yeah, it's quite common.
Right. So that means then, Tanya, that it just becomes a part of maintenance unless you're going 100% charge people for the usage of the wharf in regards to maintenance.
Yeah, I guess there's an assessment to be made about the strategic importance of that asset to the economy, to recreation, to, I don't know, the amenity value of our coastal towns. And that's a bigger discussion for a long-term plan, I imagine, and consulting with the community. Are they prepared to pay to keep it maintained?
The issue is going to become more important rather than less important if rates capping is brought in, correct? Because it's going to close off effectively that source of funding. And so the question then becomes, how do you increase your revenue to increase your services in other ways? Okay.
Just if I could just make a comment on that, the berthage fees aren't the only source of income for the wharf. We've been funding depreciation on that wharf for a considerable amount of time, and there is, I understand, Brendan, quite a substantial amount in that depreciation reserve for future work on the wharf as well. So
okay. Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Yes, Graham and I have had a number of discussions over many years about the level of fees that are charged for the use of that wharf. At the moment, users are paying something like $20 a week. And when you look at your future maintenance costs, you know, that's just peanuts. We're just not, it just doesn't cut the mustard for me. So I think, but there is the other side of the issue, which Graham is quite correct in saying, and that, you know, if you're banging your fees up, then they've had difficulty in the past of actually getting that money out of the guys. So, but then I guess I guess the bottom line is that if you were to do that and they didn't pay, then what's their options? You're saying, well, go to Raglan, or do we somehow deny them access to that wharf? Because the wharf has been an integral part of Kawhia for donkey's years, and it's an attraction for the town. You know, as pointed out, people fish off it. They charter boats and the fishing trawlers all tie up to it, blah, blah, blah. So I can't imagine Kawhia without a wharf, to be honest. But that's just me. But certainly the charging regime, I think we're looking at it again, and I see here in the long-term plan, I think it needs a real hard look at what we do charge.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Your Worship.
My only kind of comment is it depends how you look at it. If you look at it as like a recreational, you know, for the community, it's a community facility, just like a hall is or a park is, or so it's kind of, yeah, it's how you look at it, as to how you know, how much you value it, like, and it's, yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm sort of more thinking we don't go around charging everyone to use our parks in town. We rate them on it. So yeah,
That's absolutely
you know,
fair. I guess the point that's being made, and Mark, to his credit, has raised the issue. Ultimately, elected members need to balance up a whole range of issues. There's no wrong or right answer here. The point I think that Mark is making, which is really valid, which is this needs to be something that needs to be focused on, and you need to make a decision. Whatever decision you make on behalf of the community will be the right decision, but it does need a focus. Councillor Barker.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. What's Raglan charge, Ken?
Oh, I haven't done that exercise. I did a few years ago. It's changed. But it's certainly not very.
Okay, all right. So on the subject of community fairness, let's turn now to the coastal structure, section 7. The point that you make again, and I really appreciate, Mark, the frankness that your report demonstrates. You're really saying this really does need a coastal asset strategy. You've used better off money. There's some money still to be applied to the seawall. It's not a long-term solution, arguably, and there is also arguably a community fairness issue again, where ratepayers are subsidising people to live in this community. Is there a plan to develop a long-term coastal asset strategy?
I think so. I think we've got a workshop again tomorrow. So we workshopped the TSC wall back in, was it September?
The last triennium, yes.
But now we have a new council. So we want to workshop that again tomorrow. And in that workshop, we are going to highlight some of the options available to council around I suppose, the long-term solutions on that seawall. What we're trying to highlight, in particular in this report, is we can't keep doing, reactive maintenance on it. Because, well, I suppose the biggest risk is we'll be out of money by the next repair. So fortunately, we've had that government funding, but if we, put out a tender now and it comes in at $500,000, we will be, I think there's $200,000 sitting in a capital budget for the OTSC wall that will be fully funded by the ratepayer. But we'll be, I suppose, committed to a contract that could extend with budget overruns, which all of a sudden we've got no funding. So there's a real risk there for us to keep going without some real clear understanding of what our outcomes are. And that's not to say that the team of, more than capable of doing the work and getting the work done. We've done some really good repairs. We've got some good methodology. It's just about being confident that when we sign the contract to do the work, that the funding's there.
Yeah, I guess if I've learned anything in life, it is that nature always wins. And all I would say from my perspective as an outsider looking in is that there has to be a strategy, because what you're doing at the moment is, as you describe it yourself, reactive. That's the first point. The second point is a wider question, and that's about the signals that the council is sending. Is the council still receiving and processing building consents in this area? And if so, why?
Do you want to first part of that question?
The question is, we talked about the importance of developing a long-term coastal asset strategy. I said that the signals that a council sends about the future of the area is pretty important. And so my question was, is the council receiving and processing building consents in this area? And if so, the question is why?
We haven't had any building consents for coastal structures as long as I've been here.
I'm talking about residential.
Yeah, it's talking about residential housing. So Tony can maybe elaborate on this, but my understanding is we would have to have something in a plan that identifies it as a hazard area that we're not going to allow building on before. Yeah, so he's talking about houses near the seawall. But if someone wanted to build a new one, we couldn't restrict or prohibit that, could we?
So it's an emerging area. So the government's increasing their national direction. I think there's more national directions coming out around natural hazards. So at the moment, we definitely take into account future risk in building consents and resource consents. It's definitely part of what we do. We can put covenants on the title to restrict or let them know that it's an alert for a hazardous house. So definitely we do that already. And I think this government's pointing us towards taking closer looks at that. We're still waiting for some legislation to come out around that.
I was part of the previous briefing on the seawall, which was very helpful. I would have thought you wouldn't need government to tell you what line Freddie could work out, which is there's more than an emerging problem. And I guess the question, and this is not in any way intended to be disrespectful or critical, Tony, is that every time you grant a building consent in an area which is so clearly at risk, you're making a rod for the council's own back. That's my point.
You're right, and we don't need the government to tell us, but there's not a lot of development there happening at the moment. If we did get consents through, we'd look at them really hard.
Okay.
The challenge, I suppose, that we've got is we're limited, and what I mean by legislation is we're constrained by when we can say no. And so we often run into this thing of, as a regulator, we're expected to say yes, unless there's good reason to say no. And if we don't have those good reasons, then we're into litigation.
Okay.
Just through you, to follow on from your argument, though, if we took that approach, wouldn't we be saying or asking, why are we building a seawall? Like, surely we're just throwing kind of money away if nature always wins.
You took the words out right out of my mouth. That is my question.
Okay.
That is my question. I'm able to say this because I don't live here. I'm not subject to the pressures that elected members are subject to from the community. But, as an outsider looking in, you've got to ask yourself. Yep. Your worship.
You would have to dispute that statement though, considering we've got a stop being built around protecting the town from nature. And I would say we're winning at this stage. We had a massive flood event in the town, pretty much inside the stop bank. Everything performed as well. So you can beat, Holland beats nature every day of the week, every second of the day. So it's just how much money you want to spend to beat nature. You can at least foot it with nature at times. Sometimes you can't.
That's a fair point. Thank you.
It's also the number of people able to pay and who benefits. So if
Yeah.
6 houses are benefiting in Aotea from the seawall, 1 road and a mussel fat farm, and I'm not being disrespectful to any of them, versus 3,000 people in a township, all contributing and benefiting, then, and lots of infrastructure, assets, all the rest of it, then I guess that you're weighing all that up as well.
That's a very, very good point. And so your point, your worship, in relation to the Netherlands is really well made, but there are millions and millions of people that are benefiting and therefore who are contributing to the cost of maintaining those dikes.
I would say though, in this day and age, if we were trying to move a river and build a stop bank in a town, you'd have to shift the town. It would be unaffordable. Yeah. No, the consent, the process you'd have to go through, whereas in those days they just did it.
Okay.
So it's a bit of a different scenario.
Yeah. And can I just make the point too, Mr. Chairman, that the funding for both Aotea and Kanawhia seawalls is now jointly paid for by Aotea and Kanawhia communities. It's not just a rate on Aotea. So if you look at it in that respect, you could argue that at the moment, Kanawhia ratepayers, because of the share that they put into that foreshore or whatever you call it rate, are actually paying for the Aotea seawall. But then it's a quid pro quo arrangement. When Kanawhia has to do theirs, one would argue that Aotea then has to pay for that. So there is those sorts of issues to consider. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Great. Mark, Robbie, anything else you wanted to raise? I think it's just a statement of the obvious to just thank you both for the work you're doing in a very difficult circumstances. So much appreciated. So I'll move that we receive Mark's report, and that'll be seconded by Councillor Jeffries. Thank you, Mark. Okay. Let's turn now to the quarterly risk report. Graham, thanks for your report. Is there anything in particular that you wanted to draw to our attention?
No, not really. The only thing I just sort of like to say is that council doesn't have a designated person that's responsible for risk. So it's largely been between I guess myself and Rebecca to try and pull the sort of administration side of it together. We have a risk advisor, David Robson, who works for Aon, that we can tap into whenever we like, and he's sort of helped us a little bit in terms of board planning. And the other thing is that we'll see as an appendix to this report, Aon are now producing bi-monthly sort of emerging risk reports that go across the whole local government sector, and attach that at the end. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you. I should say that I attend regular meetings in Wellington of chairs of local government audit and risk committees, which are convened by Aon. So I had the opportunity to meet and talk to David, and I think that a really smart move, Graham, on your part to get David involved. He seems very, very good. I just had one question before we see whether other colleagues have a question. There is a reference in the cybersecurity data breach and digital resilience risk that Aon highlights referencing AI tools. Does the organisation have an AI policy?
Yes, we do. And when we go over our strategic risks this afternoon, our IT manager will be here to speak to that, Mr. Chair.
Right, thank you. Does anyone else have any questions about this report? Okay, so on that basis, then I will move that we receive this report, seconded by councillor Carr. So on that basis, then, Kaya, we are going to close the meeting. And then what do you want to do now? We've got a strategic risks workshop plus our quarterly discussion with the boss. Lunch is here. So let's close the meeting, go to that important lunch date. And then we'll work out which of the two things you want to do first, either the meeting with Tanya or the strategic risks review. Excellent. Okay. On that basis, then let's declare the meeting closed. Thank you.